Well, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. This week I'm going to read The Frog Prince, the ASBO version, which for anyone that doesn't know, ASBO stands for Antisocial Behaviour Order. So if you've heard a few of these ASBO stories, now you know what we're talking about. So today is going to be The Frog Prince. When a spoiled princess drops her phone in a pond, she promises a slimy, libidinous frog hospitality at her mansion in return for rescuing it. On its return, she forgets their pact, but a promise is a promise. One fine evening, a young princess went into the park near her father, the king's mansion, and sat by the edge of the duck pond. In her hand she carried her golden phone, which was her favourite plaything. It had everyone who was anyone's number on it, as well as a photo of a children's TV presenter doing a line of fairy dust. She amused herself by tossing it into the air and catching it again as it fell, and then choosing a new ringtone every few minutes. All of a sudden she threw her phone up so high that when she stretched out her arm to catch it, the phone bounced out of her hand and rolled into the pond. The princess looked into the murky water for her golden phone, but it was very deep, so deep that all she could see were several floating cigarette butts and what looked like a shopping trolley. She began to lament her loss and cried, "Alas! If only I could get my phone back, I would give all my fine shoes and dresses and jewellery, and even my Chihuahua pickles. I'd get everything that I have in the world." As she spoke, a little frog wearing a slimy pondweed baseball cap stuck its head out of the water and said, "Princess, why are you weeping so bitterly in it?" "Alas," said the princess, "what can you do for me, you chavvy-looking frog? My golden phone has fallen into the duck pond, and one of your scummy little pals has probably stolen it already and sold it for magic beans." The frog said, "I heard your lament, and I don't want your clothes and fine jewellery, let alone some barking rat. But if you will help me get out of this pond, let me live with you in your house and eat upon your sofa and sleep in your bed, and if you will kiss me good night, I can get your phone back." "This frog's an idiot," thought the princess, "and typical of the underwater classes. It won't even be able to get out of the pond. I must have my phone back. That picture of the presenter doing a line is just so priceless. I'll promise the frog what to ask. It'll never remember anyway. It'll get smashed on frog cider later and forget all about it." So she turned to the frog and said, "If you will bring me my phone, I promise to do all of that, and then some." "I mean, like, kiss me good night with tongues and that," said the frog. "Fine," the princess replied. So the frog gazed into the water and dived deep into the gloomy soup of condoms and disintegrating cigarette ends. After a little while it came up again with the phone underneath its slimy baseball cap, which it lifted in proud salute and threw the phone onto the bank. As soon as the young princess saw her phone, she snatched it up. She was so overjoyed to have it again that she forgot all about the frog and ran home, texting her friends as fast as she could. The frog called after her, "You promised to get me out of this fucking pond and sort me out with dinner and then kiss me, you devious cow." But the princess did not stop to hear a single word, because she was already on the phone giggling about some matter or another with a strand of frog spawn stuck to her hair. The next day the princess sat down with the king on their golden sofa to catch EastEnders with some fried quail eggs and chips. All at once she heard a strange noise, tip-tap, tip-tap, as if somebody was walking on the gold laminated floorboards outside the living room. She listened intently as something knocked gently at the door, and heard a small voice say, "Open the door, my princess dear. Open the door, in it. And remember the words that came from your mouth before I smack you in it." The princess ran to the door, almost knocking her quail eggs onto the pashmina carpet, and there she saw the little frog in its baseball cap, whom she had completely forgotten. She was terribly unnerved and shut the door as fast as she could and tiptoed back to the sofa. The king asked her what the matter was, and whether she was going to eat her third quail egg. "There's a terrible dodgy-looking frog in the house," the princess replied, "who retrieved my telephone from the duck pond this morning. I might have promised that it could live here with me, thinking that it would never get it together to crawl out of the duck pond, but it seems to be at the door and wants to come in." "Is this your way of telling me that I need to pay off another fairy dust dealer?" said the king to the young princess. "How much is it this time?" "No, really," cried the princess, "it's a genuine frog, who I apparently made a promise to. Can't we set the guards outside to step on it?" "If you have made a promise," said the king, "you have to keep it, or the frog can claim compensation. so go and let it in. The princess crept unhappily to the door and let the frog in. It hopped across the room and crawled up onto the sofa. "Nice," the frog said to the princess. "This pad has a lot of character. Now, feed me one of those chips dipped in quail egg yolk." "You must be joking," said the princess. "I can't fucking pick it up myself," the frog shouted. "It's hot, and I'll burn my tender frog hands. Now feed me like you promised." "Feed it like you promised," ordered the king, turning EastEnders up and crossing his arms in a huff. When the frog had eaten several chips dipped in quail egg, it lay back and belched heartily. "Light me a fag, then," it said. "Fine," muttered the princess, lighting a cigarette. "Excellent," the frog said, taking a deep drag. "Now, make hot frog love with me." "I bloody never—" wailed the princess. "Calm down," chuckled the frog. "Just kidding. I am quite tired, though, so if you could wait until I finish this fag and then tuck me up in your bed, I'd be much obliged, eh? Right on the pillow, innit?" With a look of resigned disgust, the princess took the frog in her hand and carried it up the golden stairs and laid it on the pillow of her golden bed, where it pulled its little baseball cap down over its eyes and soon began to snore. The princess waited until she was sure it was asleep, and then got very quietly into the other side of the bed for the night, taking care not to touch the frog. But just as she was falling asleep, she heard a little voice in her ear. "You promised me one thing more, innit?" whispered the frog. "Bloody hell," said the princess, who had well and truly had enough of her guest. She turned over angrily, picked up the frog, and planted a brief kiss on its mouth. "With tongues," hissed the frog, and it stuck its little frog tongue into the princess's mouth. It tasted of pond slime and tobacco, and the princess leapt out of the bed and retched horribly. She grabbed her curling tongs and charged towards the bed, ready to beat the living daylights out of the frog, when she saw a wondrous thing. Where the frog had lain, a handsome prince now sat gazing at her with the most beautiful eyes she had ever seen. He told her that he had been enchanted by a wicked fairy who had changed him into a dodgy-looking frog, in which form he would remain until a princess took him out of the duck pond and let him get off with her. "And now," beamed the princess, "I have broken this cruel charm, and you surely wish for nothing more than to marry me and love me as long as we both shall live." Said the prince. "But first I shall round up my chums and go henceforth to the Trendy Makiki's nightclub, where we will drink 500 groat cocktails that come in a big bucket. Give me that stupid phone, for I must call Henry and Timbo and Augers and Boggers and Dave the Gut. Those paparazzi are going to see some chunder-bunder on the pavement tonight, I can tell you. Ah, my word, is this a picture of Blank doing fairy dust?" "When shall we be married, sire?" cried the princess. But the handsome prince was already downstairs, ransacking the king's drink cabinet on his way out, and he heard her not. How ironic, thought the princess. She sat down by the window and watched the prince stumble out into the night, swigging from 2 bottles at once, and then set to texting her friends all about it. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers, patrons and members. See you next week. Bye bye.